introducing me. And good evening, everybody. Do you know black cats? Yes, no? Hmm? No. I mean, in general, do you know that black cats are not like the other cats? You know that there is something behind them. But today we're going to figure out what Edgar Allan Poe thought about the black cat. Indeed, the aim of my presentation is to analyze the short story The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe from the point of view of the construction of the fantastic narrative. After enunciating the three conditions of the fantastic, the implicit reader's hesitation, the representation of hesitation in the text, and the way in which the fantastic text should be read, refusing the allegorical reading as well as the poetic reading of what is narrated, Todorov says that the fantastic lasts only as long as there is hesitation, common to the character and the reader, who must make a decision, opting for one solution or another. And I quote, deciding that the laws of reality remain intact and allows us to explain the phenomena described, or on the contrary, deciding that the new laws of nature must be admitted, which will make it possible to explain the phenomenon. End quote. Moreover, the fantastic elements in many 19th century texts are almost always connected to something uncanny or frightening. Thus, the fantastic tradition could be called paranoid fiction, which David Punter defines as, and I quote, fiction in which the reader is placed in a situation of ambiguity with regard to fears within the text, and in which the attribution of persecution remains uncertain, and the reader is invited to share in the doubts and uncertainties which pervade the apparent story. End quote. So, if the core of the fantastic as a genre lies in uncertainty, in hesitation experienced by a being who only knows natural laws, faced with an apparently supernatural event, for there to be this doubt, it is necessary that the character and the implicit reader have an ambiguous perception of the narrated facts. By reading The Black Cat, we experience this ambiguity that Todorov and Punter speak of, since we are right at the beginning placed in doubt regarding the facts that will be narrated. Indeed, the narrator protagonist himself states that it would be crazy if he expected us to believe his story, whose evidence, according to him, its own senses reject. He also says that he is not crazy and that he is not dreaming either, despite implying that he is an easily impressionable person, and that, perhaps for this reason, he was horrified by the events that took place. And I quote, for the most wild, yet most homely narrative which I am about to pen, I neither expect nor request belief. Mad indeed would I be to expect it, in a case where my very senses reject their own evidence. Yet, mad I am not, and very surely do I not dream, but tomorrow I die, and today I would unburden my soul. End quote. It is this endless hesitation that makes this story one of the only ones by Edgar Allan Poe that can be considered fantastic in the strict sense, according to Todorov. That is, that they do not tend toward the strange, since they do not present a rational explanation for the facts narrated, nor towards the marvelous, since they also do not accept new laws that could explain the unusual events that occurred, but that they maintain doubt until the end. In The Black Cat, a male narrator scheduled to be executed in 24 hours as punishment for the murder of his wife attempts to describe the events that lead to his downfall. After an uneventful childhood and a few blissful years of marriage, the narrator's behavior turns ugly. He is an animal lover, an alcohol addicted, and a violent man. He begins mistreating his wife and his black cat, Pluto. Pluto is the name of the black cat, the first black cat. When Pluto attacks him in self-defense one night, he seizes the cat in a fury, cuts out one of its eyes, and hangs it. That night, a fire destroys his house, leaving him in dire poverty. He later adopts a one-eyed black cat that he finds at a low-life tavern, but after he nearly trips on the cat, he attempts to kill it too. When his wife intervenes, he kills her instead and calmly conceals her in a wall. In the end, the black cat reveals the narrator's crime to the police. That's the synopsis. However, before mentioning his addiction, the addiction to alcohol, he remembers that his cat was so clever that it caused his wife to frequently mention that in the past, black cats were believed to be witches in disguise. And I quote, "In speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition, made frequent allusion to the ancient popular notion, which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Not that she was ever serious upon this point, and I mention the matter at all for no better reason that it happens just now to be remembered." However, Poe accentuates the effect by allowing his narrator to concentrate not on the murders themselves, but on the grotesque methods considered for eliminating the body. We find 7 sentences, including discussions of decapitation, burning, and burying, and achieving a final solution, which we can find in 11 sentences. The horror in Poe's tale originates not from the descriptions of murder or the composing corpses, but from the reader's realization that the narrator is aggressively arguing his case, and that given a last opportunity to humanize the self through a confrontation with death, he still flees in its face. The horror takes on more gruesome overtones if we read the story as John Harmer McCrory suggests. That is, the narrator's purpose in telling the tale is to mock the events, see humor in his own sadism, and finally, and I quote, to get the reader to identify with another in literature with him, but then horror and humor have always stood close to one another in literature. Indeed, many find the Black Cat difficult to read without laughing. However, after committing his first crime, the first Black Cat, before cutting out Pluto's eye, the narrator experiences a sentiment half of horror, half of